Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
So today, guys, we're joined by writer and director Hallie Meyers-Shyer. This is our first filmmaker on the pod, so I'm actually really excited. We're going to talk about the whole filmmaking process, family topics, her new heartwarming film, Goodrich, which Grandma and I both watched.
I loved.
Which is starring Michael Keaton and Mila Kunis, and that's in theaters October 18th. So for those listening now, that comes out tomorrow. Hallie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and you got a little of New York's cool weather compared to LA.
For a California girl, it's great.
Exactly.
I know. Well, we always like to start with sort of your background, where you grew up, and how you kind of got into filmmaking.
Well, I grew up in LA, and I got into filmmaking because it's really a family business. Both of my parents are filmmakers, so I had a really unique upbringing where it was a big part of my life. And you know, I grew up on film sets and just with a great appreciation and education in film. And I think when you're so exposed to something as a child, you kind of either really want to do it and you're drawn to it, or you go in the opposite direction.
Right.
My sister went in the opposite direction, and I went right into it.
That's so interesting that...
Well, that's so funny because we were talking about that. Now, your mom did a lot of rom-com.
For those who don't know, Nancy Meyers is her mom, who's like actual queen royalty of rom-coms.
That's Kimmy's favorite genre, that's for sure.
Yeah,
It's a great genre.
Obviously. And Charles Shyer is your dad, who also has done Father of the Bride.
That was my favorite.
Yeah. So did watching their films directly influence you?
Well, watching the filmmaking process,
Right.
for sure. You know, I think I had a really unique experience seeing the behind the scenes of what it takes to make a film.
Right.
And my parents are both writers as well. So it would start with the writing process.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, back in that day, they basically handed something into a studio. The studio would make it. People took chances. They gave people budgets.
Yeah.
Actors wanted to be in these kinds of movies. It was a really different time than it is now.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to see the film business, to see the crews, to see the tender love and care that they put into those movies. And a lot of those films now for me are sort of like family photo albums.
They are.
It's like
So crazy.
they would put my sister and I in the movies. Our aunts and uncles would be in them. You know.
Which is nice because behind the screen, they didn't have to leave you home.
Yeah,
you
we were there.
You were really on the
we were
set,
really there.
which I think is really very special that your parents did that.
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
so,
really,
too.
It really was a family business.
It
which
really
is
was,
nice.
yeah.
So you were in Parent Trap, right? Was that your first acting gig?
They kind of put me in their movies, like you said, so that I could come and hang out.
Right.
I had no interest in
No, but I
acting.
remembered your. I was like, "Who was she in Parent Trap?" And when I was
Yeah.
like, "Of course!" I remembered your face. Like,
Well, want me to deck her for you? That's my big moment.
that's iconic.
Yeah, I had an actual speaking role in that movie. You know, my parents were making a film about 11-year-old girls
How
when I
could you
was an
not?
11-year-old
Yeah.
girl. So,
So it was great.
Yeah, it was great. It
apropos.
was very fun, and I really enjoyed that experience.
And your directorial debut was Home Again with Reese Witherspoon. How did that whole process go for you, and why did that feel like the right project to start with?
Well, it just was the movie that I felt like I wanted to make, and I attached myself to it to direct, which is how I got the job. I just went out with that screenplay, and I said that I was going to be directing it. And once Reese came on board, that made it all happen. And I really appreciate her for taking that leap of faith to be in a first-time filmmaker's film. And she was so wonderful to work with. And everything you think you know about Reese is actually very true. She empowers women. She's a brilliant businesswoman and just an absolute partner. So I had a great experience making that movie with her and with my mom. My mom produced that movie.
Oh, really?
That's
Yeah.
so nice.
Oh, so that was very nice.
Yeah.
So like I mean, I obviously work with my grandma every day. Like, do you guys agree or disagree like on a daily basis, or is it always
We agree and disagree on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I say I get fired every couple of
Right.
weeks.
Yeah.
That's just part of working with
Exactly.
family. And also, especially in a creative atmosphere, part of disagreeing is part of the process, and the best idea wins, and good conversations and things come out of that. So it's just part of collaborating.
Exactly. And also, I think when you're working with someone in the family, they're not going to hold back. They're going to tell you what they really feel, which is good.
sure.
Which is good because you really are not getting sugar-coated by anybody.
Yeah.
That's true. I always say that about my mom's notes on my scripts are the most challenging notes usually, and the best ones.
Yeah.
The result, I think, comes out better in the end if they're going to give their full opinions. And, yeah, unless you totally disregard them, but obviously you respect their opinion, and that's the key. I feel like if you don't respect your family member, you probably shouldn't work with them.
Well, that's that.
Well, I'd be silly not to respect her when it came to writing films.
1,000%.
Yeah.
So for those who are unfamiliar with the filmmaking process, and you can tell us with Goodrich or just in general, how does it go step by step? You wrote a screenplay, you wrote Goodrich, and then what happens?
Well, I wrote Goodrich 6 years ago, so this was a very slow process.
Yeah.
As often happens with the independent filmmaking world, it's not easy to get a movie made. So, it starts with obviously an idea and something I was noticing in the atmosphere, and it was a personal story for me. My father remarried and had a second set of kids when I was in college.
Oh, so it's very biological.
Very personal.
Yeah.
And I had a complicated relationship towards that, and it was interesting to watch him parent again, and I had all these feelings around it. And so, as a writer, you kind of sometimes write to understand how you feel about something.
For sure.
And that's just been a story I wanted to tell. And I noticed then other people also experiencing that and having unique family situations and dynamics. And so that was where the seed of that idea came from. But then it was a long haul to get it actually out in theaters on Friday.
Yeah, right.
And there's different ways to go about it. For me, I'd written this movie with Michael Keaton in mind. So my first step was trying to get him attached. Once he came on board, then I was able to kind of
Why
what they call
him?
package it.
And why
He
Mila?
was the right age too. He fits.
Yeah, but there's
fits
so
the
many
age.
actors of that age. They're also both obviously iconic stars.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when you were writing, or even had your dad in mind, what reminded him of?
Yeah.
Michael?
Well, it's funny because even though it was a really personal story for me, I never pictured my dad.
Yeah.
I pictured Michael Keaton
So funny.
from day one.
Oh, so that was
So
great.
he was actually a big part of the process for me, just
Right.
in my head. I think it's because I grew up watching a lot of Michael Keaton movies that were comedies, where he was just so lovable, and he's a really famous 80s dad in a lot of ways. And I just am a big fan of his, and I hadn't seen him in this genre in a really long time. So
And he's very, very good. I mean, from watching the movie, which all of you are going to see tomorrow, it's something that he really does touch your heart.
Yeah.
Because there are issues. I mean, he was trying.
Yes.
But he couldn't. It just never came over. And no matter what relationship he was in, it just exploded.
Well, everyone also can relate to complicated parent relationships.
Exactly. Well, complicated parents, and also the role of he's a breadwinner. His second wife didn't work, so he took on that responsibility.
Tell us when we give away too much. Also, we'll stop.
Right, I love it.
We're not gonna give away all of it, but I could have empathy with him because I understood. Because I remember when I was a newlywed, my husband worked full time and he was never around.
Yeah.
And I had to raise the children.
Right.
I mean, he was there naturally, but it was like they dropped in for dinner.
Right. And
They dropped in,
by the
and
way,
that's-
that was the norm.
That
at the
was the
time.
norm.
So,
And I think it's hard to put standards from today on that. And
Yes.
in that case, I felt for him in the movie. It's a very beautiful movie. You did a beautiful job.
It's kind of hard to unlearn those things, too.
Yeah.
He was a parent to a child who's, Mila's age.
Right.
And the society expected different things of him then.
Correct.
And now he's thrust into this situation
Exactly.
where he's a parent in 2024 of 2 9-year-olds, and the expectations of fathers are very different.
Very, very different.
And there's a lot of comedy in that, too.
Right. Well, it certainly was tearful comedy.
Yeah.
It was great. It was terrific. You did a beautiful job.
Thank
Totally
you.
agree. What message are you hoping for people to take away from it?
Well, these are the themes, and I think the discussions that I'm hearing are so nice. Last night we had a big screening, and a lot of the response I heard from women was, I'm going to go talk to my dad. I have things I want to say, and this made me want to examine my relationship with my parents. And then I spoke to a 24-year-old guy who said, now I'm thinking about how I want to parent, and I want to be different than my dad. And those kind of takeaways are really powerful, and that's really rewarding for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure. It also deals with a lot of complicated topics, drug addiction being one of them.
Yeah.
When did you kind of decide to put that twist, I guess, in?
Well, that's very LA.
An opioid addiction.
Exactly.
Yes.
You got to have some kind of
Right.
addiction.
Rehab.
Well, the reason I made it rehab was I wanted her to leave for a certain amount of time. I didn't want her to be abandoning her family, so I needed it to be something that was something she absolutely had to do, that we would understand why she needed to do
benefit of
that.
her family.
Yeah, and I also think it's a common story, and
Very.
a lot of people struggle with addiction. So it's relatable. And I also thought it could be interesting in the movie. Michael Keaton's character, Andy, doesn't know that she
Right.
has a drug addiction,
Right.
but
So
everybody else does.
including
So-
including the children.
Yeah.
Including the
Which
children.
was so fascinating.
Yeah,
It was,
so I
it was
thought-
a wonderful. And also I was thinking when you were just talking.
Yeah.
I think in 2024, there are so many divorces and remarriage, and it's no longer a one mom and one dad and children.
Right.
It's really multiple.
Yeah.
Fathers and mothers in the mix, and it's the art of how they do it. And become successful at it. That's really the point of the story. You have to keep trying, and it is really a changing of society.
Absolutely.
And that's very much what I got from the movie, and I
I
thought it
love
was
that.
I thought it was beautiful.
Gail, I need to take you around with me. You could tell me.
No,
This
I
is a
really
great
loved it. I
press
called her
break.
at
I loved
10:30 last night. I said, I'm crying.
I know. What was it like directing such famous actors?
I mean, it was always a pinch me moment for me, but at a certain point, they put their trust in me, which made me feel confident and trust myself. And my way into directing is through writing. I wrote the script, and I find a lot of, I don't know if other directors feel this way, but a lot of actors' questions are about character. And even if it's, why am I holding this or wearing this item, it really goes back to the character and the writing. And as the
Which you know
writer, I know
intimately.
how to answer those questions.
right.
So for me, it wasn't intimidating because I had a handle on the story that I wanted to tell, but it also came from them. They were so wonderful to work with that,
Sure.
yeah, they made my job easy.
And there were both EPs on the project,
Yeah.
too, right? So how does
What does that mean, Kim?
They were both executive producers
Oh,
of the project.
okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of say did they get with that title?
Well, a lot of actors nowadays
Yeah.
produce more smaller independent films, which I think is great because when you're wearing a bunch of hats, like everybody's in the mix of the decisions, and it feels like a real collaboration. And they're not just actors in the movie that come in and do their time and leave. They really care. Even now, when we're all in the marketing phases of the movie, everybody really cares. That's one of the beautiful things about independent filmmaking is it's a real labor of love for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Well, I think Hollywood, and I'm only seeing this from what I read.
Yeah.
It's so different than when we're talking about in the 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s. The big studios are really not that important, except for maybe on a certain, Disney films or on some of these sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
The smaller movies, which is like one of yours,
Yeah.
is really independent. And
Yeah.
I don't know if the studios are they powerful anymore out in LA, or is it? Do they only specialize in these spectaculars, or are they doing the independent filmmakers? They bringing them in.
Not as much anymore. They don't tell smaller, more intimate stories because
Sad.
theaters now, it needs to be an event to go
Right.
to a theater
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Well,
and
since COVID.
so I don't blame them for, making these kinds of movies. And I do think the ones that are breaking through are the ones that are sort of bridging the gap in some way, like Barbie, where it's
Right.
a really singular voice, Greta
Yeah.
Gerwig.
That was terrific.
It's an absolutely, it feels like an auteur film, but it's Barbie, and it's really,
Yeah.
But she was brilliant. That was
universal.
brilliant. That was brilliant.
But
That was
that's
brilliant.
why it was what it was, I think.
Right.
But I do hope that the tide changes a little bit,
Yeah,
and
it would
there
be
can
nice.
movies, that are more relatable stories
people.
like this father-daughter movie that could be, have the time and money that those movies have, because we shot this movie in 25 days.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
very
really
fast.
very fast and difficult, really difficult.
But it's still going to reach a ton of people on a streamer, too. It's not like...
Yeah,
it's not-
eventually, right? It is.
Eventually.
It's released only in theaters, which I'm
Right.
really grateful. Ketchup Entertainment is a new distributor who's distributing this film, and they are taking chances on movies like ours and putting them out in theaters. So, the more companies that do that, the better.
Are the better, because
Yeah.
as of now, everybody's turning on Netflix and
Right.
Amazon.
It's hard
Prime.
but by the way,
It's so fun to go.
I'm a mom. I get it. It's hard to
Yeah.
pay for a babysitter, go out,
And people like the comfort of their home.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's very interesting. And that's what happened after COVID. It's a very different world out
But
there.
it's almost like feels special again to go to the theater.
I think so.
Which is nice.
I think so.
We get to go and you never
Eat
get
popcorn.
the popcorn.
We want the popcorn.
Yeah.
We want the popcorn
Right?
and the Twizzlers.
Yeah.
I really do miss the Twizzlers.
And they've made it so enjoyable at most theaters. Like you can lie back in the chair.
Well, that's Well, they
That's
needed
true.
to upgrade most of the theaters. I mean, let's face
what
it.
film I just saw. I think it was the Saturday Night Live one.
Oh yeah, did you go, you went to the theater?
Yeah, I was actually at the Grove, so I was in LA.
Oh, great.
But we were saying like hearing the room laughing at everything, like
Yeah,
it was just
it's
so much
contagious.
better. It's such a
Fun.
better experience than
Yeah.
some things are fine at home, but some things are better in a theater. So
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to have that experience. And
Definitely, especially for comedy, like you said. For
Exactly.
this movie, it's so much funnier when there's a room of people laughing. And something special that happens in this movie that I've noticed, because now we started screening it, is people are crying at the end.
I'm telling you.
And, you know, that is a very powerful thing to do alongside a stranger, I think.
yeah, insane.
Yeah.
Do you think? I mean, you obviously saw people react to it, and do you stay in the theater when the film?
So I stayed in the theater for the LA premiere because
Okay.
I was so excited to see it
Yeah.
with a big audience because I hadn't seen that yet. But now I kind of just sneak in at the end
Yeah.
to see how it's playing.
Makes sense. So the first time that you did it in LA,
Yeah.
like, was it crazy out of body?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm sure.
And I was really just looking around at everybody saying like,
Yeah,
they
reaction.
laughing? Are they crying?
Yeah,
Do
of
they like it?
course.
Anytime somebody went to the bathroom, I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Are they leaving?
Are they
leaving?
So have making movies that focus on relationships, whether it's family or romantic or whatever, made you think differently about your own life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is my way in to understand certain things in my life. And it's also not always just my life. I'll notice something in a friend's life or in a cultural moment. And I just think that when, you know, with me and Michael and Mila, we were all able to talk about parenthood. And
Do you have children?
I have a 3-year-old boy. Yeah.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
It's the best. And sharing those stories, I think we were all able to put some of that into the movie, which is another thing that's great. You know, this is not a movie with lots of explosions and no one's in a superhero outfit. So we were able to put our real lives into this movie in a big way.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about relationships on this podcast.
That's all we talk.
We talk only about relationships. So is there any advice your mom or a grandparent has given you about relationships or dating that you feel like you'll want to pass on to your little boy eventually?
Well, my parents are divorced, but
So let's not pass that on. Did your mom remarry?
my mom didn't remarry, but I do have, you know, my parents divorced when I was 10. So I
When
do
they
have
were young,
memories of them together. And I remember so much laughter.
Right.
And both of my grandparents were also very funny and shared that. So that is something I think is really important in a relationship for sure.
To laugh.
Laughing.
Yeah.
Laugh and have fun together. As
Having
long as
fun, enjoying your partner's
Exactly.
company. Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not laughing anymore, and I'm married 61
I was
years.
gonna say
That's no laughing matter.
This is no laughing matter. Very good.
I'm trying to think. I feel like you say that you don't, but then you low key do.
I do.
Like
We laugh at each other,
Yeah.
but then we fight.
At.
We like to have a little sparring
Yeah.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
I like that. For
Keeps
you,
it
though.
interesting.
Keeping it real.
Keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Grandma Gail and I wanted to take a little break from the episode to tell you about some products we've been loving, and then we'll get right back to the conversation. It's never too early to start protecting your skin, and it's never too late either. We're both using OneSkin, the peptide body moisturizer and body sunscreen. I love that this line was created by an all-woman team of skin longevity scientists. They developed a peptide called OS1 that's in all their topical supplements. It's not just a regular peptide though, it's the first ingredient scientifically proven to reverse the skin's biological age. See, as early as your 20s, your cells start going through a process called senescence, where your skin cells stop rejuvenating and producing collagen and hyaluronic acid. That's why your skin gets thinner with more lines and wrinkles as you get older. Not only does OS1 stop these senescent cells from robbing your skin of hydration and elasticity, it promotes cell turnover and makes your skin more resilient so it stays healthier over time. Their products are all backed by scientific claims and thousands of 5-star reviews. Check out OneSkin for 15% off at oneskin.co using code ExcuseMyGrandma. That's 15% off with the code ExcuseMyGrandma at oneskin.co.
OneSkin has been so much of a lifesaver. I've been using it on my legs and my arms, and you will see a difference. Your skin really reacts. So try it.
So let's move on to our little pop culture segment. We were thinking about discussing the revival of like classic 2000s films because we're seeing it everywhere.
Great.
Princess Diaries 3 confirmed.
Yeah.
Freaky Friday 2 coming out this summer.
I think people are dying for this stuff.
Like,
Yeah.
why though? Like, what are your thoughts on these reboot sequels?
I feel like Gail has the right answer.
No, I always have the right answer. But the truth is, I really think people are tired of the violence. And they want something sweet that they also can share as a family.
Yeah.
And sit in the living room with their whatever age their child is, and have a camaraderie together and a nice thing without having to close your eyes. I mean,
But aren't there new stories? Like, these movies are so perfect.
well, I
Although
think
it's
that's
like-
why they're no new stories, because they're perfect. They were perfect stories.
Yeah, and I think it's, to revive some of these classics with the original cast is really special.
True.
And to see where they are now, and you hold a special place for these movies. So I think to continue the story is really great. I like less remaking movies that came out not that long ago.
Right,
That I
right.
don't understand as much. I'm like, that's when I want original content. But I do love the idea of like an audience seeing what is going on with Mia Thanopoulos, I think her name was,
Oh,
from Princess
yeah.
Diaries. Like, I'm
Thanopoulos.
definitely buying a ticket to that. Lindsay Lohan, who's my friend, she is, I can't wait to see her come back in Freaky Friday. I think
good.
that's going to be wonderful. So
Oh, right,
I
'cause
like,
you did Parent Trap.
yeah, yeah.
Very cool.
I think
feel like
people
that was
like
that
that.
was the only reboot that like was okay in my eye.
But that was a remake, like 50 years
years.
later. So that's
Yeah.
different. But
And they
Yeah.
changed the subjects a little.
yeah.
They've become a little more modern. I
so you
mean,
think they have to be modernized?
I think they modernize them a little. I mean,
Yeah.
they're more diverse, they're more interesting. I think the characters have developed a little more, but the basic story is there and it's heartwarming. So
Yeah.
people like it.
agree.
It's something comforting.
Yeah.
It's like a big snuggly blanket.
Yeah, I agree. So you'll be seeing them, you think?
I definitely will be. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I feel like people always make the Julie Andrews comparison to you.
I can't
Oh, I
take it.
see it. Why? She's so
I-
gorgeous.
I wish I was as talented as Julie
Oh, of
Andrews was.
course.
I mean, that
I wish I was Anne Hathaway.
And I wish I could sing
Yeah.
and do sound of music.
I kind of feel like if we were casting the movie of you two, that's probably who we'd cast.
You know
though.
what? We've had so many meetings like along the years because I definitely want to go on the side of the industry you're on at some point.
Yeah.
And they always ask that question, like producers.
Who would play you guys in a movie?
And I always answer, and they are like really upset with my answers every
What?
time.
Why?
I don't know, because they're like, it's not about if they look like you. It's about
Oh,
like,
it's about your essence.
right,
Right.
which is fair. But I'm
Okay.
like,
Who's going to know our essence? Unless
like,
they're.
this seems like a
That's
you
very hard. That's a very hard thing to know our real essence.
right.
But I've been keeping that quiet for
Yeah.
a long time.
Well, why don't you? Who would you guys suggest to play the other person?
What do you think?
For you?
Yeah.
I don't know. How's Anne Hathaway for you?
Well, I just said that.
Oh,
Can
I
think
didn't
of
hear you
another-
say. Oh, I think my hearing is going. I didn't hear
Is
that.
there another one?
Is there another one? Well, I don't know.
I like
Who else?
Not Jane Fonda for you because I
No,
think
Jane Fonda was too liberal for me.
yeah, and not different.
And I can't exercise. So since I lived
Those
Jane
are big
Fonda when
qualities
I
for
was
Jane
young,
Fonda.
I don't think Jane Fonda's going to do it. I don't know who's going to do it. Well, at one time, probably Joan Rivers.
Yeah, I know.
But that's
We've also
not
gotten
happening.
Joan and Melissa.
Yeah.
But I feel they're not actors.
No, but she was
I don't
great.
know. We might give this to you for homework.
We
Okay.
might have to.
I think you
we'll
guys
have to
play
think about
yourselves.
that. I think we'll have to think
Why don't
about
we
it.
play ourselves? I like that. Okay, so listeners wrote in some dating questions for
Okay.
Grandma Gail, but would love, Hallie, your help with some of these,
All
some
right.
of your advice.
Great.
Okay, first one is, how do you break it to a friend that her boyfriend is not good for her? Grandma.
Grandma first?
Yes.
Well, I think if you're going to lose the friendship,
They specifically said a schlep and not good for her.
I know what a schlep means. So
Okay.
I think for those out there who don't know, it's somebody that brings nothing to the table.
Okay.
I think to keep a friendship, you have to keep your mouth shut. unless it's something really, really bad, I think everybody's entitled to make their own decisions. Unless it's something you see that's clearly toxic, I don't think you should butt into somebody else's relationship. Because you don't know what it is behind closed doors.
I agree. I mean, I'm not going to go against Gail. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that that's the right move.
I think so too, unless like they're actually.
Unless they do something bad.
Or this is what I do. I feel like if a friend, and I've been the friend, like if they're complaining about something that their partner is doing, I would be like, yeah, I see that. Like validate that they do kind of suck.
Right, but then
if
that's
they bring it up, but don't bring it up if they seem
Exactly.
happy and blissful.
But then don't sometimes people get defensive, like they can say it, but you can't
You
say
can't.
it?
Yes.
I think best off is being quiet, putting a
Okay, that's
zip.
a little hard, but I agree. Okay, this girl wrote, boyfriend will never sleep over, and when I'm at his place, he drives me home back to mine at night. Is this an issue? Mm-hmm. Hallie?
Yes, I would say that is an issue that she needs to confront him about.
And where is he going home to? Who's he going home
Yeah.
to? Where is he going?
It's
Or
definitely
why is he
sus.
hiding her?
Right. But I do think, like, is it possible he just has a better night's sleep by himself?
But then communicate.
Yeah, say
Then
that.
just say that.
Yeah.
She's clearly confused, so he hasn't said that to her.
Well, I think she has to at some point bring it up. I think you can't be.
And how do you bring it up? Just say, like,
Say, I don't
it makes me
understand.
a
Where are you
little-
going? Why aren't we having a sleepover? I mean, I think at this, I never had sleepovers, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think in this day and age where everybody's sleeping,
Right.
if they're sleeping and you're doing it, then sleep over and have breakfast in the morning and see what the whole thing is about. Otherwise, it's just a nothing sleepover.
Yeah. I think approach it like not like the biggest deal ever, that you're really mad, but just genuinely curious about, like, I would like to have a sleepover with you, so why don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Without being nasty.
Right.
I think you have to keep it light.
What is your advice for a bride on her wedding day? Either of you can take it.
No, let Hallie take it.
I'm not actually married.
She's not married,
Because-
and I'm married too long. So,
We have been together for 12 years, but we're not actually married.
is this the father of your little boy?
Well, yes.
Okay. Well, so you're together.
Yeah, no, very much so. Our wedding was canceled because of COVID.
Oh.
And then we had a child, and now we're just in
Happy.
a partnership. But a bride on her wedding day, I would just say, try to enjoy the moment and look around the room and something's going to go wrong,
Right.
and that's going to be okay. It's still going to be the greatest night of your life.
Can I ask a quick follow up?
Yeah.
Like, were you the girl who dreamed about her wedding day?
No.
Okay. So it's not like a huge miss that you're not doing that big ceremony and everything.
No, I mean, I feel married. We both feel
Right.
married. I call him my husband.
Committed.
So that's the most important thing. The only thing that I kind of miss is everyone in my family's a writer. So I kind of wanted to hear the speeches.
Oh,
Okay, that's true.
that would have been so good.
Yeah.
Can they write speeches anyway?
Yeah, you should suggest that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, can you please write speeches for Hallie anyway and then send them to me? Thank you. Grandma, what advice?
Well, I was one of those brides that didn't really care about the wedding. So my mom cared. Well, I was 21. I was
Right.
at
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
I didn't know any
Yeah.
of those kind of
Not
nonsense.
a priority.
I got the dress. I did like the dress. And, it wasn't really about what they do now, but I think girls are older now. The guys are older. It's a different process. I would say, like Hallie said, try to enjoy the day. Don't worry about changing 3 times to a long dress, to a short dress, to a
Isn't that
goodbye
crazy?
dress. I never heard of
You
this.
already committed to that.
Well, then that's your personality. But
Yeah.
I would recommend it to brides to be not to do that. One dress is perfectly beautiful, and just wear it through the night, and that's it. And don't worry about. Be present and not worry so much about all the details.
Do you have your wedding dress still?
No, I think I threw it in the garbage.
What?
It was beautiful. It
I'm
was
sure you were such
absolutely
a
gorgeous.
beautiful bride.
You know what? I think I had it in
cannot
a
believe
box.
You did not throw your dress away.
I think I did. I don't keep anything. I'm not a
Not
keeper.
even like an iconic.
No, I
piece
have
of yours,
pictures of
like
it. It's
a wedding
beautiful, but it's no. I don't. I didn't have.
I saw this TikTok yesterday that this girl wore her grandmother's dress, and I was like,
One of
No,
my
that's
friends wore her
beautiful.
grandmother's dress.
I think that's beautiful. I had a beautiful dress, but I
would
must
have
say,
probably been
you could have worn it.
What did it look like?
It was, European lace and a little satin sash. You know, it was the days of the like a little tunic, short sleeve, and a straight dress because I'm so small that I didn't want a big skirt, and it was beautiful. And I have to tell you,
Wait, I take it back. I'm glad we're.
I know it was. I know it's not what you.
No,
would
it sounds
like.
beautiful, but like not modern.
I wore it to one of my bridesmaids got married a year later, and I took the dress out and I took it to the cleaner and I had him change the white satin band to green, and I wore it to her wedding.
You wore your wedding dress to a friend's wedding?
Yeah, it was nothing.
That's a bold swing.
That was
I'm here
nothing.
for it.
But it wasn't really. It was. I changed the color. I figured,
Not of the whole thing.
not of the whole dress.
No.
No, she didn't say anything. I figured I'll never wear.
She
it
didn't say
again.
anything to you.
She probably doesn't talk. That's why maybe
Yeah.
she
That was
doesn't
the last
talk
time
to
you
me
saw her.
anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I never thought of that.
I hear sometimes girls say like, "Oh yeah, it's great because then you could like wear it again," and I'm like, "This
Well,
is
I
why do
wore
you
it.
have to wear it again?"
Well, because you put such an investment.
Who's saying that? People are wearing
I
their
feel like
wedding
I've heard
dresses
people
again?
say that.
I think it's just known universally it's a one-time wear.
It's a one-time dress.
maybe.
Yeah.
Unless it's like maybe the third dress of the night that they're switching into.
Well, that's a trend that I think is excessive.
It's so silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't know.
You're going to be a three-dress kind of a girl, I can tell. You want it.
Maybe
You know
two.
what? You should. I think that feels
Okay.
right.
I feel supported.
First you got to get the ring before you get the dress.
Yes, all these things need to happen. But, fun to think. Okay, last question. How can I help my sister realize she needs her mom in college? She wants to cut everyone off, but I want to tell her that you still need a parent even later in life.
You take that, Hallie.
She wants her
her
sister,
sister
to
to
call her
realize-
mom more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are kind of our most selfish years, college years. So I understand that. But, maybe her mom can just call and check in, see how she's doing,
She's
and
the
just let her
adult in
know
the
she's
room.
there for her and, thinking about her and see. I think it needs to be her choice.
This doesn't apply to us because
We
we
talk
talk to each
20%.
other. I spoke
And
to your
mom,
mother
too.
15
Yeah.
times a day in
I mean,
college or
same.
whenever.
Yeah.
So I feel actually there might be more to this story, and we don't know what hurt this child is feeling. And hopefully the mom really should reach out.
But yes, but it also might not be hurt and might just be the nature of like you're away and you're in your own bubble. And
But it takes 5 seconds to make a phone call. She's
Yeah.
certainly looking on Instagram, so she
Maybe
can take a moment
that's true.
out from Instagram and
Yeah.
call her mom.
yeah. Okay, so the sister goes to the mom maybe.
Yeah.
Sometimes my mom, like around 3 o'clock, will say, like, okay, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And I'm like, do you really think we're not going to talk 30 times?
Times the rest of the day. Yeah.
What is this show you're putting on that we're going to end
That's
our
the end of the day.
communications at 3 in the afternoon?
I know. That's so funny. I
We
feel
talk
like you do that,
100
but only
times a
'cause you
day.
turn your phone off.
Well, I turn my phone off from my cell phone off at 5 o'clock
Yeah.
because I don't want to hear from you again.
Yeah. Work's over. Okay, we're going to end the episode with a game we play with all our guests. It's Grandma Gail's old-fashioned dating quiz. So we'll figure out whether you're more traditional or modern in like your relationship value.
Okay.
Okay. Would you rather receive a call or a text from your partner if it's just to say hi?
A call.
Would you sleep with someone on the first date?
Well, depends who they are.
Okay, so potentially. Dating apps or setups?
Well, I have been in a relationship before dating apps. So,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you were
so
set up.
Setups, yeah.
Would you move in together before getting engaged or wait?
As somebody who had a child out of wedlock, I think that answers itself.
Yes.
This is more modern. This has become more modern.
Yeah, it's not where she's split so far.
Right.
Do you think one person should pay for dates or should you split or alternate?
I think alternating is good.
And then,
Not on the first date. I still think
Yeah.
it's nice to be taken out to dinner on your first date.
yeah, I think so too, especially if they ask you.
Yeah.
When it comes to social media, do you think you should post the person, launch your relationship, or keep them off social?
Really depends on the person. I think less is more.
She's divided.
You're pretty divided, maybe a little more modern, but
Not much.
split.
Pretty
Yeah.
split.
Okay.
Which is
Well,
what's happening.
because I just don't want to judge somebody that sleeps with somebody on the first
Right.
date.
No, of
it's not
course.
necessarily for me, but anyone
Right.
listening,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
no
of
judging.
course.
Yeah,
you know?
no, of course. Some people come, they're all one way or all
Right.
other, but it's just everyone's a little different.
Yeah.
I'm split too. So, Hallie, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
guys for
us.
having
And
me.
good luck with the film. We
Thank
know
you
it's
so
going to be
much.
wonderful.
You're so
Goodrich
kind. Thank
is
you.
out this Friday, guys. Anything else you want everyone to know?
No, just please go see it in theaters this Friday.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having me. This was so fun.
And you can follow us on Excuse My Grandma on all our socials, and we will see you next week.